Hey everyone, in this video you see my friend doing back squat, and unfortunately on the way up he got pain in his lower back. So we met the day after to figure out why did it happen and what can we do to prevent it. To find out where is the issue, one has to search quite around. The nearest important structure is the hip joint, so I'm testing for how much he can relax and how much the muscles allow him to let the movements just happen in his hip joint. And finding that on the left side is a bit different compared to the right one. There's more stiffness in the hip flexor area, so I'm giving it already gentle release while my friend is just resting on the ground. And when evaluating the lower back region, I'm finding higher tension on QL, quadratus lumborum, which is small muscle but quite important stabilizer connecting lowest rib, spine and hip bone. Often is very tensed, so the lower back pain can also come just because of the tension there. So it's always important to check it, and in this position on the side it's much easier for me to get deeper and massage that muscle. After observing the squat again, I'm trying to see how the core behaves, what's happening in the lower back region, how the technique looks all together. And what I'm noticing is a little arching in the lower back and opening the core. It's helpful when possible to kind of break down the movements and take away the speed, the load, and see what's the quality and control in much lower speeds and much lower loads. It's interesting to see that after focusing a little bit more on the core and lower back, the depth of the squat is changed compared to the one with load, and even though Gate has good mobility of the ankle, which is a common issue, I more think it's related to the core this balance, let's call it this way. So for that purpose I'm putting him to this position where we will try to activate the core, the sequence, and how the muscles are working together to protect his spine. That's the goal. It's pretty demanding exercise. It requires focus on many things at the same time. Even though it might look very simple, my goal is to make him feel the proper connection and get him to a point where he's really exhausted. And if he cannot make this easily, then it's a sign for me the muscles are not really working together in proper way, proper sequencing. So I might post some link under where you can read more about this because it requires a bit more explanation. But what we found out here was actually that the muscles were a bit off the work, and that's why we are going through this. When you look at the position, try to imagine squat where you also need to have activated core and saved back while your hip is moving, and that's exactly what's happening here. Again, it's breakdown movement, much simple conditions. That's why we can focus on details. But we try to bring it as close as possible to the training itself, which is Olympic weightlifting. So I'm trying to choose exercises where he can put together the work of core with other muscles that are required in lifting. Namely here it's latissimus dorsi, the big muscle which bodybuilders are showing as wings. That is commonly overlooked. I don't know why is the reason for it, but in training of Olympic weightlifters this is often missing part. Most people would think core is something in front or an abdominal part, but core is also meaning the back side of your body or the trunk, and there this muscle is the main player. So here in this position I'm trying to make him put together or activate the core similar way as we did on the ground, together with the use of lats, so that in Olympic weightlifting it would work all together. When I asked what kind of exercise he uses for core, this was the one. And as you can see, there's way more focus on the hip joint than use of lats, meaning the movement in the shoulder joint. We shifted the focus there. The exercise is of course much heavier, and if we try to reach up with the legs it should be possible because we use way more muscles together, but here it wasn't. So when you train in this you can easily reach up in 10 reps, would be really good, but it's pretty heavy too. So we have to level this exercise so that it's possible to build up such strength. But if you don't have this setup, pull-up bar should work perfect as well. You just need a bit more space behind your back so that you can lean backward, as you see here. In gymnastics they would call it tuck up, and you go all the way back. Another area we work with together was hip area, but namely the glute muscles. Here we do exercise called pigeon, which is very known in yoga, but we do a little twist, more dynamic form. We use strength to open up the hip. Important is also to feel the movement happening in the hip joint, so we don't want to arch back or do some other weird movements. Just let the movement happen in the hip joint. The exercise can be pretty demanding, but it's possible to control its intensity by opening or closing the angle of the front knee. So the more we open, the more intense stretch you get in the hip joint. So I recommend to close the knee joint pretty much in the beginning and just search how far the body can go. The result should be more softer hip or open hip for this bottom position in the squat. Yet there's many weightlifters struggling with this exercise, so I recommend to do this one instead. Just lie down against the wall, cross one leg over the other, and the upper one bend down. It gives you full control over the position, it allows to breathe easily. If there's injury in the back, it's also very safe for the back, and it just requires to stand there for a while to wait for the release.
And you just breathe a lot here. So you breathe your core against this hip here and relax.
So now we try to see if there's any change, putting things together, controlling core, doing this prep exercise, just a good morning variation. I always do before lifting to kind of remind myself which muscles do I need to put together. So here is the core, glute, lats, very important triple to work on, and finally putting it all into squat. Now it can be pretty demanding to put all the things together, so there's some cues to help us to focus on different areas. We're thinking to bend the bar over the neck, that is to activate lats. We're thinking squeeze the glutes before getting down to the squat, so squeeze before getting down, use them explosively on the way up. And that should give in result more control and finally protection for lower back region. Thanks for watching. I hope these ideas were helpful. It was just checking around, playing a little bit with different exercises, positions. Any feedback is highly appreciated, so please share some ideas, or if you have some questions, don't hesitate to ask. Thanks a lot for watching.
Heavy. Yeah.